Have you ever heard a voice in your mind that didn't sound like you? Not the usual whisper of your thoughts, not the monologue you've learned to live with, but something foreign. A tone that feels older, deeper, as if it came from beneath the foundation of who you think you are. Most people dismiss it. They drown it under noise, distraction, and movement. But some of us stop. We listen. And once you do, there is no going back. When you listen long enough, you start to realize the terrifying truth that the mind is not a single voice. It's a crowd, a labyrinth where forgotten cells still wander, whispering through the cracks. Each voice once belonged to a version of you that you abandoned, a child who was silenced, a dreamer who gave up, a lover who was betrayed. And somewhere, buried under all that rubble, the one who still remembers what you truly wanted to become. The modern world calls it overthinking, anxiety, fragmentation. Philosophers once called it the tragedy of consciousness, the moment the human being woke up and realized it could hear itself think. We learn to fear silence because silence reveals the echo underneath it. The echo that says, "You don't know who you are anymore." You scroll, you consume, you move from one distraction to the next, trying to bury the whisper that says, "Something is wrong." But the voice doesn't stop because it isn't noise. It's truth, disguised as madness. And the more you deny it, the louder it becomes. The mind, like a room with many doors, rattles at the hinges when you barricade the exits. What you call chaos is often trapped honesty, aching to breathe. Every night before sleep, you hear it again. Subtle, patient, persistent. Sometimes it calls your name in your own tone. Sometimes it speaks in a stranger's voice that sounds too familiar. And you wonder, am I thinking, or am I being thought by something else? That question lingers like a scent that belongs to a home you left long ago but never stopped missing. Psychology gives it names: intrusive thoughts, subconscious projections, trauma loops. But even Jung admitted that beneath the psyche lies something older, a collective underworld of forgotten archetypes. He called it the shadow, a vast ocean of everything we refuse to see in ourselves. And the voices? They are its waves, breaking through the cracks of your carefully built identity. When they crash, they don't come to drown you. They come to return you to the sea you sprang from. The ego wants control. It wants to speak for you. But control is just another mask. The real question is, who's wearing it? You can polish the mask forever and call the reflection self, but mirrors only repeat light. They do not create it. When you wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, and your mind starts to speak sentences you don't remember forming, that's the moment the shadow moves. It speaks through the language of your own fears, reminding you of what you've buried alive. Fear is a curator. It chooses which rooms are lit and which corridors remain locked. But everything you avoid keeps living in the dark, learning your footsteps, memorizing your keys. Maybe those voices aren't intruders. Maybe they're fragments, exiled pieces of your own consciousness, knocking on the walls you built to keep them out. You were taught to silence them, to replace the inner dialogue with productivity, affirmation, and constant motion. But what if the healing you seek hides behind the words you refuse to hear? What if the sentence you can't bear to finish is the one that finally absolves you? Philosophy has always known this. Nietzsche warned that when you stare long enough into the abyss stares back. But he never said what happens after the staring stops, when the abyss begins to speak. What if those voices are not haunting you, but guiding you? Not demons, but forgotten gods of your own creation. Every civilization had names for them: muses, daemons, spirits, echoes, each one whispering through poets, prophets, and the mad. Madness is simply the moment the walls between minds become thin, and in that thinness something leaks through, something that was always there, waiting to be recognized. You might think you are hearing things, but maybe you're finally listening. Listening is not passivity. It is a radical act of surrender, the courage to let meaning arrive on its own feet. What if the mind isn't a fortress, but a field where countless lives have walked before? What if your thoughts are not entirely yours, but memories of a consciousness that existed before individuality? Imagine the skull not as a boundary, but as a bell, and every experience as a strike that sets the soul ringing. The resonance lasts longer than the blow. We live inside that resonance. Schopenhauer once said that the world is the manifestation of a single will, blind, restless, endlessly desiring. If that's true, then your thoughts are not born inside you. They pass through you, like wind moving through an empty corridor. Each gust carries a fragment of the infinite, and sometimes one of those fragments speaks your name. We believe we think, but maybe we're being thought by the universe itself. And if that's true, then the voices that don't belong to you are not invaders. They're reminders. Reminders that you are not separate from the abyss. You are its echo made flesh. You see, identity is a fragile illusion. It's the story you tell yourself to make sense of chaos. But stories evolve, and sometimes they start talking back. The philosopher Kierkegaard said, "Despair is the sickness of the self that refuses to become itself." Maybe those voices are the symptoms of a deeper healing, the sound of your forgotten selves trying to reunite. Each whisper says, "Remember me," the angry one, the kind one, the child, the monster, all the parts you disowned, they return, asking for recognition, and until you listen, they'll keep speaking. Some of those voices will lie. Some will try to seduce you into comfort or guilt. Others will whisper truths you're not ready to face. But every voice has one purpose: to bring you closer to the totality of who you are. Growth isn't a straight corridor. It's a spiral staircase. You keep seeing the same doors, but at a higher floor each time. Because only when you face every voice inside you do you finally hear the one that was silent all along, the authentic self, waiting beneath the noise. But here's the paradox. The moment you find that voice, it doesn't sound like you anymore. It sounds like the universe speaking through your mouth. The mystics called it enlightenment. The psychologists called it integration. The poets called it madness. But in truth, it's just awareness, the point where listening becomes understanding. You may feel fear while listening to these words, a subtle discomfort, because part of you knows that this is not just a story, it's an awakening, a remembering. And once the remembering begins, you can't unhear it. Silence becomes heavier after this. You start noticing what hides beneath the hum of daily life, the background static of existence. Every sound feels charged, like a message coded in the ordinary. That's not imagination, it's perception expanding. The mind is learning to listen beyond itself. So tonight, when you lie in bed, don't fight the noise. Don't drown it with music or screens. Let it speak. Ask it what it wants. You might be surprised by the answer. Maybe it will tell you about the moment you betrayed your own truth. Maybe it will remind you of a dream you once had and abandoned. Maybe it will confess that it's not another voice at all, just the echo of your soul learning to speak again. And when that happens, don't run, because that voice, the one that doesn't belong to you, is the only one that truly does. We spend our lives building walls inside the mind, dividing good from evil, sanity from madness, logic from faith. But all those divisions are illusions drawn in the sand. When the tide of awareness rises, they disappear. And what remains is silence, a silence that breathes, watches, listens. It's not empty, it's pregnant with meaning. In that silence, every voice merges, the human, the divine, the forgotten, the unborn. They become one sound, and that sound is you. And still, beyond that convergence, there is a horizon where meaning keeps unfolding, a reminder that completion is not the end, but a gateway to deeper questions. But this realization doesn't come easily. The journey through the voices is long and painful. It requires the courage to descend into your own chaos. You must confront every word you've ever used to define yourself and ask, "Who am I?" without these names. You'll hear resistance, the rational mind screaming for control. You'll hear doubt, the fear of losing the familiar pain that defined you. And finally, you'll hear the whisper that says, "Let go." When you do, the noise collapses into stillness. You'll feel as if something inside you has died, and it has. The illusion of separation, the belief that you are ever alone inside your own head. Because the truth is, you've always been part of a larger voice, a cosmic chorus where every soul sings the same song in a different tone. The hymn changes with each life, but its source remains.
The universe speaks through contrast, through shadow and light, despair and hope, birth and decay. And the human mind is the stage where that drama unfolds. Maybe that's why we love stories, because they remind us of the voices inside us that crave to be heard. Each character, each conflict is a reflection of an inner dialogue. Every villain is a repressed desire. Every hero is the voice of transcendence. You are all of them, and they are all you. So the next time the inner noise begins, don't call it madness. Call it communication. The universe is fluent in whispers, and if you listen carefully enough, you might discover that the voice you feared most is the one guiding you home. That's the irony of awakening. The closer you get to understanding, the less you can explain, because truth isn't spoken, it's heard. You are not just a thinker. You are the space where thought happens. You are not the voice.
You are the silence that allows the voice to exist. And when you truly see that, every voice becomes sacred, even the painful ones, because they too lead you back to awareness. Pain teaches pronunciation. Joy teaches resonance. Together, they teach you how to say your own name. So if you've ever felt haunted by your own mind, remember, you're not broken. You're expanding. You're hearing the orchestra of existence tuning itself through you. And somewhere in the middle of that haunting symphony, there's a note that belongs only to you. But it can't be played until you accept the rest. Accept the discord, the pauses, the unresolved chords. They are part of the score that makes your music honest. Listen. Not to respond, not to analyze, just to witness. Because the more you listen, the more you realize that the voice behind all others isn't trying to control you, it's trying to wake you up. So when the voices come tonight, don't silence them. Sit with them. Let them speak. They'll tell you the story of your own becoming. And when morning comes, you'll realize something quietly miraculous. The voices that didn't belong to you were the ones that led you back to yourself. This is the truth hidden inside the abyss, that what you fear hearing most is what you've been trying to say all along. And if your soul finds resonance in these words, if you've ever felt that invisible shiver when the unknown speaks your language, then don't walk away. Stay with us. Because here, in Within the Abyss, we explore the spaces where light and darkness meet, where silence breathes meaning, and where the unseen whispers its secrets to those brave enough to listen. So subscribe, listen deeper, and remember this final truth. The voices that don't belong to you are not your enemies. They are the bridge between who you think you are and who you are always meant to be. They are the language of the abyss itself, reminding you that even in the darkest corners of your mind, you're never truly alone. Because the abyss is not against you. It is waiting for you to listen. And once you do, it will whisper your real name. And in that moment, you will finally understand you were never hearing them. You were always hearing you. And when you answer, softly, steadily, the voices fall silent, not because they've vanished, but because you have become large enough to hold them all. That is what wholeness sounds like. That is what home feels like. If this reflection met you where you are, let it continue. Join the circle. Add your voice to ours and help this message reach someone who needs to hear their own name in the dark. Subscribe, leave your thoughts, and share this with the one person who hides their questions behind a practiced smile. Together, we listen. Together, we remember. And together, we become.